What's up? We're back with a game that's not stinking FF7 Rebirth.
FF7 is done,
It's
baby!
done!
I like that game, but it just takes so long to LP.
Whenever people are like, do insert new game that takes 80 hours. No.
I streamlined that playthrough. Like, it was 40 parts, and, like, every part's, like, 25 to 30 minutes long. So, like, I did that game in 20 hours.
Right.
But LPing for 20 hours still takes us...
20 weeks? Minimum?
Yeah. It took us, like, 6... Why am I picking up my PS5?
Yeah, it makes sense. So, 20 weeks is, 5 months, and that's about right. I mean, sometimes we did more than, Sometimes we did more than an hour at a time, but that's why games like this are great for LPs.
Whoops. So off screen, like I said, I got all the Maya-Mayas you can get, which I think was... well, whatever. I think it's about 40. I also, like... while exploring the land, because I had to go to, like, Death Mountain and, like, all the other places, I also, like, just picked up a bunch of rubies. This game just hands you rubies like cake, because you need rubies for everything, so...
I want cake.
Yeah, cake's good. I can't even speak right now. I rented out every single Ravio item. It's not really that much, rubies. It takes about, like, 300, 400 to do that. And... we don't have the Sand Rod, because the Sand Rod we don't get until one of the Dark World dungeons, because the one stage that got captured has it. But overall, the items are pretty good. I do think that the one weird exception is the boomerang, because, like, the boomerang was, like, this item, and I think this is, like, important for Zelda progression. Because in Link to the Past, you get the boomerang as, like, the second item in the game. You get the lantern, and then you get the boomerang right in the Sanctuary Cathedral. And I think that's purposeful, because, like, the boomerang is, like, not a great item. And, like, in this game, it's also not good. But because you can either get the boomerang or the hook shot, it's like, why would I use this when it takes energy, when I can just use the hook shot?
It's so much faster.
And the hook shot is the same rental price. It's not like the boomerang's, like, super cheap or the hook shot's super expensive. Why would I ever use the boomerang for anything? But... like I was saying, they do cut a lot of items, and I do think that they're generally good, but, like, the boomerang is, like, a relic of the old classic Zelda progression, and having it in this game makes basically no sense.
What would you do if you walked into a retail store, and they were like, we don't have anything? Like, that's when you walk... I mean, I know it's your house, but, like...
we sold everything.
Hey,
it really would just be like, why do you not have any stock?
We sold everything?
Anyway, because this is very non-linear, I'm gonna get as many heart pieces as I can get right now, which is 12 immediately.
Let's do it.
It shouldn't take too long, but there's some mini games that we have to do.
That's how... this is just a CIB related thing, but sometimes customers, especially if they're, like, ultra picky, like, I feel like that is what they think of us if, like, they're looking for, like, 2 or 3 very, very specific items, like, do you have Haunted Ground PS2? Okay, what about, Persona Revelations for PS1? Okay, what about Stadium Events? Oh, you don't have anything. It's like...
yeah, screw you.
Okay. There was I didn't tell you this, Trev, because I was obviously working the one day, but there was this group of customers the other day. I think they were joking, but it was the weirdest joke of all time. They were standing right there up at our front counter, where, for anyone who's been in the store, we have this big wall of video game systems that are all for sale. And they're all pretty clearly for sale because underneath each one there's a little printout that says what it comes with and the price. And there's, I mean, what, minimum 30 systems at any given time, unique systems available for sale. And he came up and he, like, looked there for a second. I said, hey, how you doing? Let me know if I can help you. And he was like, you don't get a lot of systems, do you? And I was like, oh, was that a joke? Because you're, like, standing in front of the systems and, like, it's a whole wall of systems? And he was like, what? No, I was looking for whatever. And I was like, oh. This conversation started out really great. This is a great way to introduce yourself. Like, cause I literally stood there for like 5 seconds and was like, "Oh, are you joking? Cause like the system's right. Do you see the systems right there?" And he was like, "Yeah, I see them." And I was like, "All right." I was like, "Where?"
Like, how many game systems do we have? So we have 3 shelves, and each shelf holds 2 consoles generally. And what? We have 4 rows on each
I think it's
bookshelf? 5?
It might be 5.
So 5 times 3 times 2.
So like 30.
30.
Plus at least 5 box systems on the top. Plus all the handhelds. I mean, they're not right in front of that, but like at any given time, let's just be kind and say there's 30 unique systems.
30 unique systems plus 15 unique like portables at any given moment.
But yeah, I was like, okay. And it was weird because they were like they like opened a local other business, and they were like, it was a group of 3 friends, and the other guy, who was much more personable, came over and was like, "Hey, it's blah from blah, we do this." And I was like, boy, I wish I would have talked, like in my head, I was like, I wish I would have talked to you first. You're like very personable, and like they were nice. They were nice guys, but I was like, man, first impressions are really big. And that happened like 2 weeks ago, and I still remember how odd that was. And I was like, I don't understand. I was like, are you joking? I don't get it. Like, am I being pranked? Is this like a YouTube prank where someone's like, I want a system. No. I want a system, bro. Do you have any? Oh, it looks like you don't have any. Okay.
You don't get many Pokemon games, do you? What? I was looking for Heart Gold. It's like the one that we're missing.
Right.
It's like, screw you.
We get so... I don't want to say many, but we do pretty good on Pokemon games, whereas a lot of stores literally have none. And I've had a lot of people say almost that exact thing where it's like, oh, I see you don't really get much in.
You don't have this one specific one.
And it's like, what?
Therefore you don't have
We have
any.
literally everything from Game Boy, Game Boy Advance, and like 80% of the DS ones. It's like, bro. I always wonder. There's certain times. I mean, Trevor's just doing side quest stuff, so I can just talk about stuff like this. There are certain times where I'm just like, where do you people shop, and what do you expect? Like, whenever someone comes in and they're like, hey, can I see the disc? You know, which if I'm always like, oh, is your first time in? Hey, we run everything through a professional disc buff or whatever. And they'll, like, look at it, and they'll be like, I don't know, do you have another one? And I look at it, and I'm like, damn, I'm picky as hell. And it looks perfect to me.
You buy anything off of eBay. When I bought, like, a bunch of, like, probably, like, 100 PS1 games, like, every single one was scratch. It's like, where do you get these games, dude?
Right. I mean, I can't tell you how many people come in, that they're like, hey, I bought this game on eBay, and I think it needs a buff. And I'll look at it, and I'll be like, oh my god! I'll be like, it's like a hockey puck. You know, it's like ridiculous. I still, speaking of that, the very final one for this, like I said, 90% of people are great. It's just 10% I'm like, I'm very confused. It doesn't even make me like mad. It's just more of being like, I don't understand. Do you only buy like literally sealed product? But it would be different if they were like, oh, do you have this PS5 game? But they're like, can I see the disc for this PS1 game? And it's like, what, do you buy all your PS1 games new in 2024? Like, I don't get it. Plus, a lot of systems leave, like, very small surface scratches on them when you're just, like, casually playing them. My favorite of all time, I think I've said this before to Trev, and even maybe on the channel, but during COVID, I really don't like selling stuff online. There's just a lot of nonsense to it. And I try to keep everything for in-store. And during COVID, we had to sell stuff online, obviously. And,
No, I was one off.
Oh, did you want 50?
I have to get 100 for this. And the gimmick is that you have 30 seconds, but you don't see the timer, so I literally have a timer on my phone.
Oh, that's cool.
This is, like, the easiest way to, like, get rubies, because it's not like you're abusing save states with, like, the chess minigame, but if you just want to get easy rubies, this is, like, the best way. In the Dark World, there's one that gives you like way more rubies.
So anyway, it was like Pikmin 1 or 2 for Wii. And I remember before we sent anything out, I made sure it was absolutely mint as heck. And I sent it out, and the guy got it, and he was like, "Hey, I'm just checking out something. The disc works perfectly fine, and it looks great, but was this disc buffed at all?" And I was like, "Yeah." I was like, it was, yeah. You know, that's pretty standard. And he was like, "Okay, so no offense, but I'm gonna return this. I don't like discs that are buffed." And I was like, "Oh, okay."
The game looks good, it works, but...
He was like, "It looks perfect, but like there's like a little tiny bit of the white residue, so I can tell it's been buffed." And it was like like even at the time it was like a 12-year-old Wii game that was not cheap, used, so like new would be like almost impossible. I just that kind of stuff, like I'm very picky, and obviously I use myself as a litmus test. Of course, anyone pickier than me is ridiculously picky, right? But I still remember that and being like, okay, and I wasn't even mad. I was just like, all right, like sure. Like he was very kind about it, and he sent it back, and we refunded it, and we sold it to someone else who was happy, and I was like, okay. But probably once a year, I get people who are like, "Oh, you buff your discs?" Never mind. And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And I'll like tell them, I'll be like, "We literally, unless it's like a brand new PS4 or PS5 game, or it gets run through the buffer, dude. So you probably literally never want to buy anything in here. Just as a heads up." And like that literally happens like once a year, and I'm still, it's probably happened like 7 or 8 times, and I'm still always so blown away by it. I guess we're due for it at this year at some point. It'll probably be during like the holiday season.
I think that's happened to me like once, but obviously Spencer works way more than me.
It just goes to show you that in life you can't appease everyone. Like people will ask if we refurbish systems, and to me, refurbished it means at some point it had something wrong with it, like PS2's not reading, so you like change the lens or clean the lens, and I'm like, no, most of the stuff isn't. Like very very small stuff like NES is, and most people are like, okay, and some are like, I want to refurbish, and I'm like, that's cool, but like even then, sometimes people are like kind of against like refurbish things, like they're so specific that they want something with like the original lens from the PS2 or whatever, and you're like, oh, okay, well, can't do anything about that.
Yeah, I think my de facto answer is like, if they come in and they're fine, we don't do anything to them, but if they do need like repairs, then we will fix them.
It makes sense. Only recently for NES's, what is it, PS2 and GameCube. Everything else is like, if it's broken, it's not really worth it. Usually. Do you get all your life back when you get a heart?
I think so.
There we go. I'm just so glad every day that I'm not in food service, because people are so bonkers about food stuff. Like, yeah, they can be picky about games and stuff like that, but, like, man, the second you make some... And it's so weird because, like, we as a society eat, like, the worst stuff, and yet people are still, like, incredibly picky about it. It, like, just kind of blows me away.
Yeah, food service seems like just the absolute worst thing, because people are super picky, and profit margins are, like, pretty small. Just seems like such a thankless job.
So I found out recently, because obviously grocery stores groceries are very expensive now with beautiful 20% inflation or whatever. But I found out recently that grocery stores generally operate on like a 2% profit margin.
I just don't see how they possibly make money, but they must just sell in such quantity.
Well, and it makes sense, because if you think about it, like even a small grocery store, like we have a local one to us called Ebenezer's, which I like a lot. I try to go there first over everything. They're like a discount place. But even there, when you go in there, there's always at least, 10 people working at once? And it's not like it's not a huge place. But, like, you go to, like, a Render's and there's, like, I don't know, 15, 20 employees at any given time. And there's a lot of them that you don't even see, right? Like, working in the back and whatever. And there has to be a ridiculous amount of shrink. Like, they buy in, you know, lettuce, hoping that it sells, and a lot of it, like, doesn't. A lot of it gets past its sell-by date. And I'm like, man, the amount of just, like, unfortunate waste and shrink and stuff at a at a grocery store, no wonder they have like 2% profit margin, you know. But yeah, I was very surprised about that. That is like a well-known fact that, like, in general, I'm sure Walmart is obviously higher because they sell things that aren't groceries, but probably on their, like, grocery part of it, it's like 2% profit margin. And I mean, 2% profit margin on, like, $200 million ain't nothing to sneeze at, you know? But still, holy crap. It's probably why all of them have just, like, 1 billion stores.
Yeah, at some points, like, it's... Like, the economy is so weird because at one point I'm, like, mad that things are so expensive. But then other times I'm just like... It's surprising that, like, the world functions.
Right?
Because of, like, things just seem like you just can't make money on, like, anything. Or, like, just, you know, intense competition. Like, competition's good for the consumer. But in terms of, like, making money, it's, like, it's brutal.
Well, the one of the big problems recently, and I won't go into this too much, but have you heard of that, I guess it's an app or website called Temu?
No.
Okay, so it's a Chinese one, and essentially it's like an Alibaba or like a what is it, Wish, but it's like really hardcore. It's like an Amazon of China, essentially, and everything on there is ridiculously cheap. And if you look at it, you're like, how do they make any money on this? Well, first of all, this stuff is like straight garbage. Like, it's like the lowest quality possible. But the other thing that makes it that they're able to do it is, like, a lot of the items are made on quite literally slave labor. I'm not talking, like, Apple making their iPhones and paying, like, you know, sweatshop prices. I mean, literally people who are actually slaves. Or indentured servants, or whatever you want to call it. And, of course, so it's like, they make these items overseas, and they're like... The biggest cost for making anything is the cost of, like, paying the people to make it, right? Like, in America, you can't just be like, I'm gonna make this thing and pay my employees $2. Like, you would not make a thing then. It is what it is. But, like, over there with Temu and China and all that, they're literally like, hey, America, can you compete with the fact that we have essentially zero labor cost? Oh, you can't? Ah, sucks to suck. And it's like, bro... So whenever anyone starts talking about Temu and being like, should I get something on there? I'm instantly like, no. You really, 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 really shouldn't. Even though it looks very tempting because it's very cheap. Do not do that.
Yeah, another site that I know of is Wish.com.
Yeah, Wish, yeah. I think Temu's just like the super-powered Wish is the best way of putting it.
It's just like, it's tempting, but, like, first of all, it's like, the stuff is so cheap. Oh. I guess I accidentally... Maybe I got this last time, but you get a bottle from this guy. Sorry if I did that off screen.
Yeah, I don't remember.
I might have done that without me thinking about it. Just one more herpes and then we'll start doing stuff.
That's why I do like companies that are like, mostly or all formulated in America. Like, do you know they call it, like, dad shoes? They're New Balances.
Yeah.
They are 100% all made in, like, Boston. And obviously they're paying people, like, normal wages, and it's not like Nike being like, hey, we make these $200 Air Jordans in India or China or whatever, and we have essentially no labor costs. New Balance is, like, still like, hey, our shoes are like, I don't know, 50, 60 bucks, but it's literally 100% made in the USA, and we actually pay our employees, and it's not slave labor. It's like, okay,
yeah,
dad shoes looking pretty good right about now.
I think the thing I was trying to say for the Wish stuff before I got distracted by the bottle guy is that it's tempting to buy because it's super cheap, but obviously whoever's making it is, like, being paid, like, pennies, if not nothing. But the other thing is that they're usually just like complete garbage, and like you're just gonna throw it away anyway. It's like total landfill. It's like you're paying Wish a couple bucks for like some gimmick item, and you're just gonna throw it away. It's just gonna end up a landfill in America anyway. You're literally poisoning the planet.
Right.
Just don't buy it. If you see Apple AirPods for $5, it's obviously gonna be complete crap, and you're gonna throw it away right in the trash can in like a day. It's like, just don't do it.
Right. And, you know, you'll say to yourself, and we've all been there before, you'll say, I'm not trying to cast the first stone here. You'll say to yourself, oh, it was only $5. It's like, yeah, true, but it's $5 you didn't have to spend, and you didn't have to make, like Trev said, that ridiculous amount of trash for that.
And it's not just throwing away in a landfill. It's like, you're also like the production line in China is going to make, they're going to dump like chemicals in the ocean too.
Oh yeah. People, that's probably my biggest complaint in just like the general world / economy is that people are the general public is very hardcore about like America and Western companies like, hey, we need to do better about our trash situation and blah blah blah. And I agree with that. I totally do. But like nobody ever brings up like, hey, have you seen a picture of India? Like a single picture of India that's not like the Taj Mahal. Can we do something about that as well? As well, not first, but as well. Or
it's very true.
Like Trev said, like China, any of those places. It's like they have no regulations or very little regulations, so they just take all their stuff and they're like, dump it in the river, and it's like, maybe that happens in America. I'm sure, unfortunately, it does, but not nearly to the level it happens everywhere else.
Yeah, especially like India, China, they're just dumping that stuff in the ocean.
You'd have to literally pay me like $10,000 to go to India. Like,
What? You don't want to have instant diarrhea?
You'd have to super make it worth my while. Like, even if it was like a week and I had a guide, you'd have to pay me like $10,000 because nothing about it seems good. So, I do like instant diarrhea though. I mean, that's...
There's this one famous kind of like vlogger who did like videos like a long time ago. Like he was basically just like traveling the world on like nothing but like just like a basic bike and just getting by with like some money he has. And there's one episode about India and it's just like as bad as you imagine. Like immediately he's like, well, you know, the first thing about India is that you're going to be spending 20% of your time on the toilet. I laugh so hard. Because, like, he's, like, he goes to, like, footage of him just, like, sitting on a toilet. And it's just, like, the most disgusting thing ever.
Have you ever seen Indian street food? Them preparing it?
Yeah.
Just, I mean... If in America you ever see a video, even someone at home making food and they're just, like, putting their hands in it, every comment's gonna be like, yeah, that's gross, I'm not eating it. Which, I get it, right? Like, even Ash, who I am married to, if she was like, hey, I just want to let you know, I made these burgers, and I didn't wash my hands before I made the burgers, and I changed a diaper before that, I'd be like, okay, I don't want it, right? Like, I'm not gonna eat that. But, like, Indian street food is literally the most insane thing I have ever seen.
And they'll, like, serve it on the dirt. It's like, what?
Right? No, it's...
we're really not trying to be racist. Just, like, it's difference of, like, culture,
yes.
of, like, food sanitation. It's nothing against them. That's just how they're used to.
That is how they're used to, but objectively, it makes you sick. Like...
yes.
I am all for a difference in regions and all that, and there's a lot of things in America we do awful. Like, just awful.
Oh, yeah.
But, serving food off of the ground is not one of them. Like, what?
Like, some guy was, like, just pouring, like, had a big pot of food, and it's like, okay, I mean, it looks fine, but then they'll just serve it on the dirt, and it's like, what?
I think I would actually, starve if I went to India. I'd be like, I'm gonna lose 10 pounds on this trip, probably from diarrhea, but also from just eating as little as humanly possible. Thank you. I don't know how we got on that subject, but it is a funny subject. But we have to fill the air a little while Trevor does. You're still doing the heart piece stuff, right?
No, we're in the dungeon.
Oh, we're in the dungeon. All right.
We're in the House of Gales. The main gimmick of this is this item here, that sort of you can go up in the air, but you can't control yourself. Like I can't. It's just completely vertical.
Okay.
But there's a lot of wind and stuff that makes it more interesting.
Is there anything you can do to buff how fast your energy gets back?
No, not that I'm aware of.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that was something.
You get a stamina scroll, like it's gonna be very late for us. It's the ice dungeon.
Oh yeah, I think you talked about that.
And I think that's gonna be like probably the second to last dungeon I do. And it's not a huge boost. I find as if that the stamina bar isn't like a huge deal.
No, it looks like it comes back pretty fast. So hypothetically, there was a heart there in the wall. If you went in the wall and an enemy touched you while you're in the wall, do you get hurt?
You're completely invulnerable.
Okay. So that I bet that's going to be used in some later bosses.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
It literally happens in the final boss.
Okay. Okay.
So.
It's almost like the nerf or whatever you want to say. And you said you can own all those items because they still say rented?
Yeah, you can own them. It costs a lot of money, and you can't do it until it's either once I finish the House of Gales or after I finish the third dungeon. I think it's the third dungeon.
Because I didn't see an option there last time. Yo, this is the 3D to 2D is like just such an amazing gimmick.
It really is, yeah.
It also makes it just so much more. The people who had to design these dungeons had to constantly think in like different dimensions.
Oh yeah. I do think that the dungeons are pretty bite-sized, but they're still fun.
Still, the simple fact that they have to be like, hey, hypothetically, they could go on any of these walls at any time. I'm sure the speedrun is ridiculous with people breaking the game in one way or another in that way.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know, like, how... Usually most Zelda games have, like, a lot of random glitches. Never watched a Link Between Worlds speedrun.
Seems like it'd be fun. That's one thing that I've always disagreed with. I guess you would... I guess it's splitting hairs, but we all know that Ocarina of Time has a lot of glitches and exploits, right? And people will say stuff like, hey, Ocarina of Time is very glitchy. And I disagree.
Yeah, it's like glitches, like, whenever I played it as a kid, I never experienced a single glitch in my life. They're, like, more like exploits.
Yes. A glitch is something where, like, you're just playing the game and, like, something earth-shattering happens. Something just completely random, right? The way that people found out all these different things, like wrong warping and blah, 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 is, like, essentially going into the code and being like, how can I change the code of this game mid-game, you know? And I just disagree that, like, there are games that are glitchy. Like, Bubsy 3D is glitchy, right? You just try to play the game normally and you're like, oh my god, please, you know? But I don't think Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and all that are glitchy, because you really have to go out of your way to mess with things. Let us know below if you agree or disagree with that, but I know it's just...
I know it's easy to be, like, colored on your view of it, because you watch, like, ZFG just, like, destroy the game. And it's like, haha, the game's so buggy. It's like... But it's, like, only, like, buggy to, like, someone who's put, like, 1,000 hours, or specifically is looking at a resource to be like, hey, now it's buggy, because... it's buggy because we're doing this specific thing, like ground jumping in Ocarina of Time, where you lay a bomb and you hold your shield, then you push the A button to grab, and then Link enters this weird state where, like, if you decide to backwards flip, he'll do like just like a vertical like jump, which lets you get up ledges. It's like, how specific is that?
Right.
It's very good for speed runs, but like, who is going to figure that out on their first playthrough? No one.
I wouldn't even say on your second or third or whatever. Like, any casual playthrough is not going to figure that out. It's someone that either is ridiculously bored or really wants to specifically go out of the way to find glitches. And I would argue that, like, these glitch hunters are not, like, quality control kind of people. Like, when you have somebody quality test a game, you know, you try to have them break them and everything. Break the game and everything, but you're not like, hey, go into the source code and then figure out blah, blah, blah. It's like, no, like, upon a casual playthrough, are you going to experience anything? That is generally the case. And again, it's, you know, it is what it is, but I've always thought that was a thing that was unfair to the game, where people are like, yeah, it's the best game ever, but it's super glitchy. It's like, ugh.
Yeah, it's different from, like, being glitchy and, like, unfun to play because of it, and glitchy because you're doing something super specific because of it.
I troll you! Oh, yeah. Yeah, that would have taken me way too long. I was like, how do you continue on? Oh, yeah, you have a thing that sends you up, but not left and right. At least those enemies are easy to defeat.
Yeah.
What? Do you not have the... You have the boss key.
I have the boss key, but I need to just order the key. Oh, wait, did the key drop down? No. I did all the... It's supposed to drop down here. I don't remember specifically what I'm saying. I thought I was just doing these things.
You went to the wall to the left. Was that
No, there's a chandelier
blocking you?
Oh, wait. Oh, yeah. That's actually what you're supposed to do. You have to get onto the second floor, though. Or, just this elevator ledge.
See? Once again. Whenever you're stumped, it's like... You know what game always looked pretty interesting to me, but it always had pretty middling reviews, is Super Paper Mario. Although I guess by comparison to the other Paper Mario games, it's pretty good.
Yeah, it's not bad. It's kind of weird.
I just love that 2D to 3D gimmick is so cool.
Yeah, but the 3D is like really empty and kind of looks like it's half finished. It's still cool though.
It was also when I played it for a brief amount of time. I probably tried it out for like an hour at some point. The biggest turnoff to me for that game was the fact that there was so much story. Like, I know it's a Paper Mario game.
Yeah, the story is pretty
but they also make it like to be. The other Paper Mario games look pretty obviously like they're RPGs, but Super Paper Mario, like even in its gameplay, looks like it's a like a platformer. So like parents will ask me once in a while, like, is this game good for kids? And I'm usually like, probably not. Like, it has a lot of puzzle stuff.
It's a weird game.
And it has a lot of story dump, excuse me.
I also think that Super Paper Mario is probably the game that made Nintendo be super strict about their Mario games henceforth. Because, like, Super Paper Mario goes, like, too far. It has the weirdest stuff in it. You have, like, geometric shaped people in, like, a weird dimension. And it's just, like, a really weird story. And it really feels like barely... Like, if I didn't see, like, Mario on the screen, I'd be like, this isn't even, like, a Mario game.